Um, what if I told you that tomorrow's biggest mistakes, the sudden flash of anger, the sharp words you'll use, or maybe the selfish decisions you'll make at work, are actively being engineered right now while you're fast asleep?
Yeah, that completely goes against our normal cultural expectation of sleep, doesn't it? Like, we just assume it's this complete restorative shutdown.
Right, exactly. We picture the brain like a laptop.
Yeah.
You close the lid, the screen goes black, all the processing stops,
Yeah.
and the system just rests silently until the morning alarm forces it back online.
Which is a very comforting illusion, honestly. We desperately want to believe that the moment our head hits the pillow, we are just completely disconnected from the ambitions, the anxieties, and the resentments of the waking day.
But modern psychology, and frankly, ancient wisdom, tells us a completely different story about the human mind, right?
Oh, absolutely. You aren't just resting, your brain is actively consolidating emotional states. You are essentially marinating in your last thought of the day.
Which completely shatters that whole shutdown theory. We are actually looking at a psychological and spiritual landscape that is just constantly running in the background. So, welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today is to explore a really profound, deeply reflective document that unpacks an ancient biblical metaphor from Hosea chapter 7, verse 6.
Yeah, and it was an incredibly sharp exploration of human nature. It looks at how our hidden thoughts operate and what truly fuels our daily actions.
And it starts by setting the stage with this really relatable premise from the source. Just imagine someone planning a massive, difficult project.
Like an architect designing a skyscraper or, a founder launching a company. They don't approach that task casually.
No, not at all. They're weighing every possibility, considering every tiny detail. And when night falls, the physical work might stop, but the mind is still quietly refining the plan.
Right, the brain is just working all through the dark.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the source takes this highly relatable experience of uh, overnight thinking, that feeling of lying in bed while your brain builds these intricate plans, and it applies it directly to our deepest spiritual and emotional passions.
Which is fascinating because we usually view planning as this noble, productive trait.
Yeah, but this reflection flips the concept to examine the darker, more hidden side of human intentions.
Mhm.
And to really grasp how intense this always-on engine is, we have to look at the specific historical crisis that triggered this metaphor.
Right, so we're pulled back to the 8th century BC into the northern kingdom of Israel. The prophet Hosea is observing a society that is effectively collapsing from the inside out.
It was a pretty brutal time.
Oh, absolutely ruthless. You had massive political instability, profound wealth inequality. I mean, in a span of just a few decades, multiple kings were assassinated by their own officials.
Just a bloodbath of unchecked ambition.
Exactly. And Hosea isn't just documenting the murders, he is analyzing the psychology of the conspirators.
He's looking at the silent phase of the treason, because the text notes that these conspirators didn't just wake up one morning, stretch, and, spontaneously decide to overthrow the government.
Right, they plotted.
And the core metaphor Hosea uses to describe their treacherous hearts is a baker's oven.
Think about how an ancient clay oven actually functions. It isn't like a modern gas stove that you can just flick on and off.
No, it takes preparation.
A baker lights the fire inside the clay structure and then closes it up, allowing the embers to smolder quietly through the entire night. The thick clay absorbs and retains the heat.
So from the outside, in the dark, the oven looks completely cold and dormant.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know a fire was lit. But internally, the temperature is steadily rising, just gathering immense thermal energy. And when morning arrives and the oven is opened, the flames burst forth, ready to consume the king.
What's fascinating here is, wait, sorry, let me give you an analogy first, because I was trying to visualize this in a modern context. It's exactly like a slow cooker or a battery silently charging in a dark room.
Oh, the battery analogy is perfect.
Yeah, because you look at a lithium-ion battery plugged into the wall at midnight, and it looks entirely passive. It's just a plastic brick sitting there.
But internally, on a chemical level, it's building intense kinetic energy.
Right. It is storing up raw power. And if you allow that charge to build, it inevitably has to erupt into visible action. You cannot contain that energy forever.
What's fascinating here is how the source takes the specific, literal assassination plot and extracts a terrifyingly universal truth about human nature.
That sin or destructive behavior rarely just appears suddenly.
Exactly. A massive moral failure or a sudden outburst of rage is almost always the morning eruption of an oven that has been quietly smoldering all night.
It starts as a tiny spark, like a hidden resentment you refuse to let go of.
Or a quiet jealousy over a friend's success, or a selfish desire you just keep feeding.
Because the people in Hosea's account had secretly nourished their anger. Throughout the night, their treasonous schemes were literally cooking.
Yeah, outwardly they were probably smiling at the king, acting like perfectly loyal subjects.
But by morning, that internal fire reached a flashpoint. Now, obviously, we aren't ancient assassins. I highly doubt anyone listening is currently plotting a violent coup against a monarch.
Let's safely assume they aren't. But the metaphor doesn't lose its teeth just because our political structures have changed. The fundamental mechanism of the human heart remains exactly the same.
So the text forces a very uncomfortable audit of our own internal landscape. If we aren't plotting against a king, what are our ovens baking overnight?
Here's where it gets really interesting. Well, I mean, the document brings this ancient clay oven directly into the 21st century. It asks us to ruthlessly examine what occupies our minds in those quiet moments before sleep.
Like, are you lying awake in the dark, consumed with plans for your business?
Yes, or are you staring at the ceiling, strategizing about how to outmaneuver a colleague for a promotion?
And this feels incredibly pointed for our current culture. Is your mind filled with thoughts of gaining followers, going viral, and just building social influence?
It holds up a mirror to the sheer exhaustion of modern ambition, doesn't it?
It really does.
We live in an era that actively encourages us to monetize our hobbies, to build personal brands, to measure our worth by digital metrics.
And the text points out that many people go to sleep mentally, scrolling through those exact anxieties.
Right, nursing grudges from the workday, obsessing over unfulfilled goals, or simply being consumed by the pressure to be perceived as successful.
Wait, hold on. I need to push back on this a little
Mhm.
bit. Because I'm looking at my own life right now, and I definitely lie awake thinking about my career. I think about how to grow my projects, how to secure my financial future, provide for my family.
Which is completely natural.
Right. So is the source saying that any ambition, like just wanting to do well at work,
Hmm.
is inherently bad and equal to a treasonous plot? Because that feels extreme and honestly a bit impractical for anyone living in the real world.
That is a crucial distinction to make, and the source actually anticipates that exact offense. The text explicitly states that these passions, like career advancement or business success, often seem harmless at first.
Okay, so the job itself isn't the problem.
No, it isn't a sin to be an architect or a business owner. The danger the source highlights is the volume level of that ambition. The text asks, what happens when these desires continually occupy the heart to the exclusion of all else?
Ah, I see. It's the difference between using a tool and becoming enslaved by it.
Precisely. When your mind is completely dominated by the pursuit of recognition, or when your baseline emotional state is a simmering panic about your status, that is when the clay oven reaches a dangerous temperature.
Because it's about the sheer totality of our focus.
Yes, the text argues that whatever you allow to smolder quietly in the night becomes the exact flame that guides your actions during the day.
Which means if you bake anxiety, comparison, and pride all night, you are going to serve anxiety, comparison, and pride to everyone you interact with the next morning.
You cannot bake bread and expect to pull a roasted chicken out of the oven.
Right. The ingredients dictate the outcome.
Huh.
Which brings us to the most incredible turn in this entire reflection.
The invitation.
Yes. For the first half of the document, we're hit with this heavy warning about the destructive power of a smoldering mind. But the ultimate message here is not a warning. It is an invitation to completely change the ingredients.
It asks a truly transformative question. If the internal engine of the mind is going to run overnight, regardless of what we do, and if that oven has the power to bake such consuming, exhausting passions, what happens if we put something entirely holy inside it?
The text invites the listener to cultivate a passion that burns specifically for Christ.
And it doesn't just offer this as some abstract theological concept.
No, it lays out a very specific, tangible nighttime practice.
Right.
It tells us exactly how to actively swap out the fuel source before we go to sleep.
The author outlines this deliberate shift in our mental focus as the day ends. Instead of rehearsing your anxieties or mentally arguing with people who wronged you, the text says to let your thoughts actively dwell on Christ.
Let your mind rest in his promises. Meditate upon the grace you have received, the cross, the unconditional love of the Lord.
It's a massive shift in posture.
I want to dig into the actual mechanics of how this works, though, because on the surface, someone might hear, think about Jesus before bed, and dismiss it as just a nice, quaint Sunday school answer.
Right, like a spiritual platitude.
Exactly. But there is a profound psychological and spiritual shift happening here. Think about it. When you lie awake thinking about your career, your ambitions, or your social standing, you are the center of the
You're
universe.
parrying it all.
Yes, the entire weight of your success or failure rests on your shoulders. It is a wildly exhausting fuel source because it relies entirely on your own effort.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the gospel offers the exact opposite mechanism.
How so?
Well, when you shift your mind to meditate on Christ, you are actively removing yourself from the center of the universe. You are dwelling on a grace that you did not earn and a salvation that was accomplished entirely outside of your own efforts.
Oh, wow. Because the work is already finished.
Exactly. You are no longer generating the power. You are resting in a power that has already secured your ultimate future.
That completely rewires the oven metaphor. The text says we are no longer dealing with the destructive, consuming fire of anger or the frantic fire of selfish ambition.
No, it describes this new passion as a warm and living flame of devotion.
Let's go back to that battery analogy for a second. If the anxious mind is a battery charging with destructive kinetic energy, ready to explode,
Then shifting your focus to Christ is like plugging into an entirely different electrical grid.
like the steady heat of a house furnace.
Right. It's a steady, low-voltage warmth that keeps the entire house heated, rather than a wild power surge that blows out the fuses and burns the structure down.
The phrasing the author uses, a warm and living flame, it implies comfort, sustainability, and steady light. It doesn't consume you, it sustains you.
And when you go to bed with Christ in your heart, trusting in His care rather than your own cunning, something really beautiful happens in the dark.
So what does this all mean? Like, what is the practical boots-on-the-ground result for you, the listener, when the alarm goes off the next morning?
Well, according to the text, the beautiful outcome is a total transformation of your emotional and spiritual baseline.
Really? Just from changing your nighttime focus?
Yes, because when you go to sleep with a mind anchored in the gospel, that quiet devotion continues to do its work through the night.
So your subconscious is marinating in grace instead of grievance.
Exactly. And by the time morning arrives, the love of Christ rises within you like a bright living flame. Instead of erupting in anger, your heart burns with gratitude, humility, and love.
It fundamentally alters your first reaction to the world.
It does.
Like, instead of waking up with an immediate spike of cortisol because you remembered an email you have to answer or, erupting in frustration because the kids are moving too slow, your heart has already been primed with gratitude.
That is the exact causality the author is trying to show us. Waking up with a heart that burns with humility and love for the Savior isn't an accident.
It's the direct result of what you put in the oven the night before.
Yes. And this internal posture actively shapes your external reality for the whole day.
Because when your core passion is a devotion to Christ, it acts as a filter for everything else.
It softens the words you speak to your spouse at breakfast. It provides patience when you deal with a difficult client at noon.
It governs your reactions, shapes your decisions, and influences literally every relationship you navigate that day.
It is the exact same underlying mechanism as the conspirators in Hosea, but redeemed for a holy outcome.
Wow. Yeah. The ancient assassins went to sleep nursing their hatred, and they woke up ready to destroy a kingdom.
While the believer who intentionally rests their mind on the finished work of Christ goes to sleep nursing gratitude.
And they wake up with a renewed desire to live in His presence, to seek His wisdom, and to reflect His love to a broken world.
Because the internal engine is never going to stop running. Your heart is always going to be baking something.
The profound realization of this text is that we actually have agency over the ingredients.
The invitation is to deliberately choose the fuel you feed the fire.
This has been such a deep and revealing look at the hidden mechanics of human nature and spiritual formation. To synthesize the ultimate lesson of the source we've unpacked today, there is a direct, unbreakable causal link between the end of our day and the beginning of the next.
There really is.
The final thoughts of the evening often become the first passions of the morning. If you fill your oven with worry, pride, or endless ambition, those are the jagged flames that will rise when the sun comes up.
But if you intentionally lay down at night with your mind fixed on Christ, you will rise with Him, fully equipped and ready to live out your day for Him.
A mind that rests in the grace of Christ will inevitably produce a life that reflects the love of Christ.
Wow, perfectly said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It's a conversation that truly forces us to audit the quietest, most private moments of our day and challenges us to rethink how we prepare our hearts for tomorrow.
And before you step away, there's one final provocative question that naturally builds on the text we've explored today.
Oh, I'm ready for this.
The source makes it clear that our minds are like clay ovens, magnifying and baking whatever we put into them overnight.
Right.
If the final thoughts of our evening dictate the flames of our morning, what does that mean for our modern, almost universal habit of staring at screens right up until the point of sleep?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
If we are lying in bed absorbing the anxieties of the 24-hour news cycle, the bitter arguments of social media, and just the endless, exhausting noise of the digital world until the exact second we close our eyes.
That's a terrifying thought.
It is. What kind of chaotic fire are we accidentally fueling for tomorrow?